All right, quick question. Before we even roll into the intro, have you ever noticed how fast we slap a label on ourselves? Like I'm tired or I'm stressed or I'm a mess. I mean, half the time I'm saying like I'm hungry, but I'm not hungry. I, I just am. I'm just bored.
You are. And look, if you caught the Tuesday check-in, you already know. This week, we're beating up on one of those deceptively big ideas. And it is that idea that I am that I am. And look, I get it. It sounds heavy. But don't worry. We're going to keep the ride fun. And I promise you don't need any incense stanchions or anything like that. None of that's required.
Exactly. And look, this phrase actually comes from the Bible. The I am that I am. God sort of saying, I am that I am. Kind of a you can't define me. But before anybody thinks that we're about to pass around the offering plate, get out your wallets. No, I'm just kidding. Let's be clear. You don't have to be religious to find something useful in that. Whether you're spiritual or kind of an existentialist or just trying to figure out why you keep eating Oreos at midnight, I mean, this can actually help you.
Here's the deal. Language actually shapes reality. And when you say, I am tired, you're not just describing what you're feeling, you're programming your brain to be tired. That's your reticular activating system at work, the RAS. We've talked about this. It's kind of like a bouncer at your brain's club, basically. It only lets in what you tell it to let in. It gives you what you expect in so many ways. And so when you say things like, I am tired, suddenly you're exhausted just because your words told you that you're tired.
Yeah. So, what if instead of saying I'm tired, it's just I am, period? Maybe you can create some space. You're not your tiredness, you are not your sadness, you're not your screw ups for sure. You're just you. And maybe in that space you can actually breathe.
So, we're going to beat this up even further because it's not just about what you say about you, it's also about how you label other people.
Yeah, so let's get into it.
Welcome to the Nature of Everything podcast with Bo and Clint, where we deep dive into the world of personal development through coin. Confirm it, own it, be intentional, and change the nature of everything.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Nature of Everything. I'm Bo.
And I'm Clint. And if you're new here, this is a podcast where we take all the messy and the fun and the real parts of life and we run them through our framework of coin, which is confirm it, own it, be intentional, and change the nature of everything.
Yeah, basically, we want to talk about the stuff that you're already dealing with stress and time and relationships and growth, but we want to strip away the drama and actually make it useful.
And by the way, if you haven't checked it out yet, our first book is available. It's called Confirm It, Own It, Be Intentional, and Change the Nature of Everything in Your Life. And you can grab it at coinyourlife.com.
Yeah, and also connect with us on socials Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Just search Coin Your Life. We'd love to have you be a part of the community.
So wherever you're listening from, you know what? Thank you for being here. We appreciate you.
Okay, so let's zoom in on this whole I am thing. When you say I am tired, it's like you're just signing a lease on tiredness. You just agreed to live there, utilities included. But really, I mean, you're just feeling tired. It's a temporary state, it's not your identity.
100%. Think of your words like your iPhone settings. You tell your brain, I'm tired, and boom, your reticular activating system, your RAS, it kicks in like Siri and it's saying, okay, noted. Let's filter out anything that doesn't match tired. So, you want a nap?
And look, the thing is, your RAS doesn't argue with you. It doesn't say, wait, Bo, you've had 3 cups of coffee. You're not tired. It just takes your word, which is kind of weird, but it does. And it rearranges the whole house so that you live in Tired Town.
Indeed. And look, it really is. It's neuro-linguistic programming, like 101, like neuro-linguistic programming for dummies. The words you say, they shape the lens you see through. And when you attach the words I am to something negative, you're basically branding yourself with it. It's like a terrible tattoo. except instead of like a dragon on your arm with swords and flames, it's just tired. It just says tired, and it's stamped across your whole life at that point.
Yeah. So what if we just stop that sentence at I am? Just I am. Full stop. It's not denial, it's creating space. Space between you and whatever's happening in the moment. Tired might just be visiting. Sadness might just be hanging out for a little bit. But they don't need to own the deed to your identity.
Yeah, and that little bit of space, it really is like a magical space. That's where you get to remember, you're not the storm. You're the sky that storm is simply just passing through.
Wow, that's poetic. Did
Yeah.
you just make that up?
Yeah, dude. It's trademark now. And you know what? I expect royalties every time you use it. So absolutely get in there. Say it all you want.
All right, I'll give you a few bucks for every time somebody honks at me when it's my bumper sticker.
I'll take it.
But look, the point is, you don't have to say I'm tired. You can just say, like, I feel tired.
Mm.
Or even better, like, just I am. And that's where the freedom is.
Yeah, so, here's a twist. It's not just about how you label yourself. It's also about how you label other people. Because the second you say they are always selfish or, that he's just impossible. You're basically putting them in a costume that maybe they've worn it before, but they may not be wearing it now, but you simply just said that is who they are.
Yeah, I like that, that it's kind of like a costume from 10 years ago. Like, you're still treating your little brother like he's that 17-year-old kid who ate all the pizza rolls, when really he's like a 35-year-old man now with a mortgage and some back pain.
He probably still likes pizza rolls though. But to your point, look, your brain doesn't necessarily update the file. It's like running on old Windows 95 or something. Those old labels just keep showing up as if they're still true today. And the crazy part is your RAS, it works the same way with other people too. If you've already decided this person is difficult, your brain already starts scanning for proof that that's the truth as it is now.
Right. Your RAS becomes their PR team, but only for the bad press. Like every little thing they do just reinforces the story that you've already been telling yourself.
Yeah, and basically, I think this is where we oftentimes just get stuck in those old narratives. And we've talked about the old narratives before. Like people grow. You grow. I'm growing. We're all in constant growth. And people change. We're all in a constant manner of change. But if you keep stamping them with they are whatever the thing is that you fill in the blank with, you're basically locking them into some box. Well, and realistically, you're locking yourself in there too.
Yeah. I mean, I've done that too many times. It's
Certainly.
embarrassing.
Indeed.
So, I mean, maybe the better way is to say, like, well, right now they're showing up like this, or today they're acting like this. That leaves room for tomorrow, to let tomorrow be different, because they're not their worst moment, just like you're not your worst moment.
And the moment I think that you make that shift, you stop labeling people like they're permanent and you start seeing them like they're actually, you know what, guess what? They're human too, just like me and you, which, let's be honest, they'll probably appreciate it just like we would.
Yeah, so let's talk about the other side of this, mistakes. Because here's the thing, you're not your mistake, you're not your failure, you're just in the middle of practice.
Yeah, and we've said this before. Discipline, it sounds like punishment, like somebody's, about to hand you detention or hit you with a ruler or make you walk barefoot on broken glass while it's hot with coals underneath. Just something that sounds terrible, but practice feels lighter. It feels like that it's simply those repetitions and it's learning and it's giving yourself the room to figure it out as you go.
Yeah, like nobody freaks out at the kid on the basketball court who misses a free throw during practice. Why? Because it's practice.
Mm.
Like you miss, you adjust, you try again. So why do we treat our own lives like every single moment is like the SEC championship game?
Because we hate sucking at things. We hate not being good at it. That really is why. Which, look, I find is completely ironic because you actually need permission to suck at it if you ever want to get good at anything. I get it. You and I, we totally did an entire episode on this.
Hmm.
Progress starts where perfection ends.
So look, maybe instead of saying like I am a failure, we can reframe it and we can say I'm practicing.
Sure.
You're not bad at relationships. You're practicing communication. You're not terrible with money. You're just practicing financial awareness. You're not the failure at the gym. If you are, I am. You're practicing health. So there's a difference there. And I think it's important that we see it.
Here's the wild part. If you actually embrace that, it takes the sting out of those mistakes as well. They stop being, I don't know, like verdicts. Like the jury's in and now the verdict is, it kind of stops that about who you are. And it starts being feedback on how your practice is going. And that simply becomes it because you are, but you're not your failures. You're not these verdicts. And so it kind of takes that sting off of you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's probably one of the most important things that coin has taught me is practice and to lighten up a little bit
Sure.
and make a mistake, maybe even chuckle about it or tell you about it. We'll both laugh at me. But, like that's made a huge difference in my life, because failure, it's not your identity. It's just a result of trying something.
Sure.
And you know what? Results can change, which means that you don't have to carry them around like they're permanent tattoos. They're more like post-it notes. Like they're helpful for a while, but then you can pull them off and throw them away.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that's the art of practice, right? You're showing up and you're messing up. And guess what? You're still owning the fact that you're moving forward because you're still making those steps. So let's get a little mystical here for just a second. All right. So if we zoom out a little bit, I think we all start to realize you're not your who, you're not your what, or your when, or your where, or your why, or your how either.
Yeah, think about it. You're not your who. You're not just your roles, dad, mom, employee, boss. Like those are just hats you wear. But that's not the whole you.
To that end, you're also not your what. You're not just what you've accomplished. You're not just what you've screwed up. You're not just your job title or the stuff that you bought on credit. You're not just your what.
Yeah, and you're not your win. You're
Mm,
not stuck in your past. You're not waiting on some magical future either. You're not, when I finally get it together, then I'll matter. You just are.
fair enough. And to keep it going, you're not your where. Location doesn't define your identity. Whether you're sitting in your corner office or you're in your car eating McDonald's in the parking lot, like I don't care. You're you. You're still just you. Same with how you get things done is just a process. It's the playbook. But who you are, that's deeper than any of these strategies.
Here's a big one. You're not even your why.
That's
You
good.
may have a why,
That's a good one.
and it might drive you forward, but that's not the core of who you are. I mean, basically, all those questions, the who, what, when, where, why, and how, they're important, but they just don't fully define you. They're just parts of your story.
Yeah, I mean, they're tools and look, they're super important. I think those are huge pieces, but they give context. They help guide decisions, as it were, but they're not who you are. They're not your core. They're not your core identity. Who you are runs deeper than roles or results or outcomes or circumstances or locations. Like your core is much deeper than any of that.
And honestly, to me, that's very freeing because it means you don't have to hang your whole identity on one of those things, a job, a role, a relationship, or that one win or that one loss.
Absolutely. You just are. And that space is where growth really can happen. So let's make this real then. It's one thing to talk about I am that I am, but how do you actually put that into practice?
Yeah, because look, we don't want to just show up and add one more cool phrase that you nod at and forget by lunch. We want to think of a couple of ways to put this into practice this week.
All right. So first one, I say watch your language. And
Yes,
you
sir.
know, I mean, like not to be disciplined, right? But seriously, like when you catch yourself say and I do it, I have to do this often because I am still practicing this piece in many, many, many ways. I am still very much in practice of this. And so I have lots of feedback for myself with this. When I say I am tired or I am stressed, Like, let's pay attention to those and let's switch it to what you're feeling. Maybe you feel tired. Okay, I feel tired. I feel stressed. That little shift, it certainly can do a whole lot to remind me that it's temporary. That's not going to claim my whole identity if I can change that phrase and watch myself on that.
Yeah, and look, I've actually been trying to practice this, and I'm embarrassed. It's just truly embarrassed at the number of times I am
Mm,
fill in the blank with something stupid. I
sure.
mean, like, I am tired, I am stressed, I am all those things. And when I listen to myself do it, I'm just like, wow, Bo. I mean, like, dude, you
Well,
got to stop.
and you think about it, like we've talked about how the RAS actually comes into play. And so when you can call it activating this particular piece of our brain to where it labels those things, or you can call it manifestation, there's science to it. There's plenty of things that back this up that once you place that label, your RAS, that bouncer to your brain, starts keeping the other stuff out. So if you're putting the negative in there, then it's bouncing the positive stuff right out. It won't let it in.
All right, so let's also think about this. Like, we also have to start hard labeling other people, like you were saying. Like, instead of they're impossible, we're going to have to try, like, right now they're acting frustrated,
Mm.
and like leave that door open for tomorrow to be different. It's just a small tweak, but it's huge for relationships.
Absolutely. And look, I say third, a huge advocate for journaling and practicing what you're doing within your words. So each morning lately, I've been trying to write an I am statement. Not that I'm overwhelmed or not that I'm also not putting in there like I am amazing, right? Like just something that's like grounded, like I'm present, or, I've even written in there, I am breathing. That's just an anchor that says, hey, this is how I started the day. And I started the day breathing, that's a hell of a way to start the day.
Yeah, and here's one more. Like, when you make a mistake, add the words, and I'm practicing, or
Mhm.
and I'm working on it. I missed that deadline and I'm practicing time management. It reframes failure as feedback instead of identity.
Yeah, you know what? Because realistically, the truth, I mean, again, you're not your what or your when or your how, like we've talked about, but you're not your worst day. And you know what? You're not your best day either. You just
Mm.
simply are. Practice makes sense from that place. Growth makes sense from that place that you just are.
Yeah, and you know what, that whole like you're not your best day either? We need to remember that one when we're comparing our lives to the Instagram reels, to the highlights reel of social media. They're not their best day either. Again, it goes back to they just are. They're not their worst or their best, they just are. So let's bring this full circle. Like, so today we're talking about I am that I am. And not as a religious lesson, but as a practical way to step back from labels. You're not your tiredness. You're not your mistakes. Other people aren't frozen in whatever version of them that you've decided. You just are, and they just are.
Yeah, and realistically, when you create that space, everything changes. You stop letting your old words and these old narratives run the show. Like, get rid of those. Start practicing instead of punishing. You start seeing growth as a more of a process instead of that, jury verdict that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and that's really the heartbeat of coin. Confirm it, own it, be intentional, and change the nature of everything. Because this little shift, this space between I am tired and just I am, that's a coin moment. That's confirmation, ownership, intentionality, and it's all rolled up into one big ball.
Yeah, and it's not just this episode. These ideas truly are woven all throughout the book and in our framework. In the book, I mean, it's not just a stack of concepts. It's a field guide to doing this kind of work every day. Like we're always wanting to look at the ability to reframe and to either continue practicing or start new practices and actually living from your authentic self instead of from these old tired narratives that we continue to say about who I am and who you are and what I am and what you are. We get to reframe those and live in a present authentic moment.
So, look, if today resonates with you, the book goes even deeper. It gives you tools and some structure to make these kind of shifts in everyday life, relationship stuff, work stuff, health, even the way you talk to yourself in the mirror.
So again, please go out there. You can grab a copy at coinyourlife.com. And while you're there, make sure you plug into the community. Let's keep practicing this framework together. Because remember, you are not your label, and you're certainly not your last mistake. You just simply are.
Yeah, and maybe that's the most powerful part of all of this. You don't have to become something to matter. You already do matter. You just do. You just are.
You are.
And in that space and in that being, that's where peace and growth and purpose can really start to take root.
Remember, you're not broken. You just are. And maybe you're practicing. Maybe you're well on your way of getting it all right. Or at least like me trying to get it less wrong. Which is, I don't know. I'd say that's probably the tagline of my life.
I mean, I would agree, but that would be rude.
All right, so look, everybody, let's keep showing up, keep practicing, and hey, if all else fails, I don't know, try not to trip over your own feet. That's a good spot, because if you're still on your feet, then you are on your feet. You know what? As far as I'm concerned, that's a win.
I dig it.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to check out coinyourlife.com and find us on social media.